Hi guys, welcome to another Friday evening with the Protege Effect Laser It Forward with Carlo and Billy. All right, guys, I'm going to jump straight into it. I summarized what we're going to be doing into some of the basic things that you learn when you go and study any type of drawing, whether it's sketching or technical drawing or whatever. And that basically is point lines and polygons, basic shapes, rounding corners, beveling edges, offsetting contours, tracing, and then step and repeat, or most softwares call it arrays, where you can put stuff into rows and into columns and into circles and all kinds of fancy things without using nesting tools or anything like that. I believe that there's only 12 buttons, in fact, 12 little icon buttons that you need in the whole Corel suite that you can design absolutely anything on earth. But that's a video for another day. I'm actually thinking Carlo and I must team up and we must make a little Protege Effect toolbox, little bar, and it's got all the things that you need in order to run Corel, because the current setups, there's a million buttons we don't use. You'll see on mine looks a lot cleaner because I've removed a lot of the buttons. So you might have to go and look for them. Some of them might not be where I have them because I do have a bit of a customized setup. But if you can't find the buttons, just pop us a message. Okay, guys, so why did I start with a stupid comment like points, lines, and polygons? Because everything on Earth starts with a point. Now, a point has no dimension. It doesn't have a length, it doesn't have a breadth. It's got an X and a Y coordinate, and maybe if you're in 3D space, a Z coordinate. But it doesn't have if you zoom into a point on software, you'll see the little point stays the same, but never ever gets bigger. If you have a circle, the circle will get bigger and bigger. The next one is a line. But what is a line? It is just two points that are connected. So a point, you can't have a line without a point. And then a polygon is a square, a circle, a triangle, any other shape. Even a circle is not actually a circle. It's just a very fine multi-sided bunch of points, lines, which end up making that polygon, depending on how good the technology is at your point in time. That's why you always see me commenting on the group about squares and circles, because anything on Earth and everything on Earth is drawn with squares and circles. Even you'll say a triangle, yeah, it's half a square. Say an octagon, yeah, it's a bunch of squares rotated. It's all squares and circles, squares and circles. So once you can understand points, lines, and polygons and where you can find them and some of the different tools you can use there, you can then start with basic shapes. Either you can go and draw your basic shapes the hard way, or you can do them the easy way. We then go to altering these shapes, making them pretty, turning them into scallops, rounding corners, doing some fancy tricks. And then, of course, the famous offset or contour, where we put a line to the outside or the inside of an object, also how to do boundaries. And then I'll show you a very quick dummy, I call it dummy tracing for dummies, a kind of one set of settings for anything under the sun. And if that fails, then you need to get somebody else to do it. And then, of course, last one, step and repeat. Okay, so we said with the points, it's just got a X and a Y and a Z coordinate. But a line, for example, it will have a point at the beginning and a point at the end. A polygon will then have multiple points, and a polygon is always a closed set of lines. If the line is not closed, it's not a polygon, it's just an open line. Normally in Corel, when you go into your node editing and you right click on it, it'll tell you if the curve is closed or if it's open. If it's open, then you won't be able to fill it, or it's going to give you funny effects if you try to fill it. I'm just going to open this one. See there, it's not joined. So see, it doesn't want to do any fill. If I go and I close it up, it gives me my fill. So if something's not filling, you can always just right click, make sure that that little closed curve is closed, and then you know that your paint and stuff won't leak out. Right, so points, lines, and polygons on your drawing tools. A lot of people, especially from the old CAD days, just use the 2-point line. So they'll, have these 2-point lines, and when you open up a drawing, there's a million of these things connected, and it's difficult to work with. You have to group them, you have to combine them, you have to do all kinds of little tricks to make those lines work. I seldom use that. My go-to is either a polyline or a spline. A polyline, poly meaning multiple, so multiple lines join. Polyline automatically joins as you click, click, click. It joins, and if you join back on your starting point, it automatically closes the curve for you. And if you color that, you'll see that it's a closed curve. For some of the more artsy things, and if you wanna cheat to get some accuracy, you can go onto a spline. All a spline is a polyline that tries to honor all the vertexes by using curves. So I'm going to click on the same points that I made the polyline, but I'm going to use the spline, or in other softwares, polyspline. So I'm going to click those exact same points, but look how my spline is acting. It's rounding it and making it nice for me. So there it's trying to have a solid curved line that's curving everywhere, and it's splining to honor all the points. So when you do 3D meshes and stuff for interest's sake, that's where the computers come in to interpolate those to make 3D Google views and whatever else. So you can get really clever with your polyspline. I suggest that you practice it, because if I want to honor my shape that I got on screen, I would know that in order to make a corner there, I need two little doikies close to each other. So then I double click to make an anchor point. And if I want a circle there, I know to click there, to click there. So then I can start manipulating the shape with my mouse. I can say, okay, I want to honor. Okay, I don't want to honor. I want a bigger one there. If I want a sharp corner, I click once and I move. If I want to change the corner, I can click a second time. And this just takes a little bit of practice and playing, and nobody can teach you that part. If you're doing really technical drawings and you're going for accuracy, millimeter accuracy and stuff, you can explore things like the 3-point curve, but you should never really use anything more than spline, polyline, and the 3-point curve. 3-point curve is nice. You select a starting point, an ending point, you let go of your click, and you can then put your final anchor point wherever you want, and it will create you a curve in between. So once we can draw points, lines, and polygons, we can then use those points, lines, and polygons, and we can struggle and try and learn techniques and how can we get these things to be the right length, and how am I going to draw this thing into a perfect square. It can be done, and you can use grids and you can use guides and all kinds of fancy things, but let's just use the tools that are available to us. So here on the basic shapes, we've got rectangles, squares, we've got ellipses, circles, those kinds of things, and then we've got what we can call our fancy shapes. Squares and rectangles, it's simple, it works the same as a line. You click and you can draw your square. If you hold in Shift, if you hold in Control, it automatically keeps it to its proportions. If you don't hold in Shift, you've kind of got free reign. The same goes for a circle. You can select your starting point. You can either draw a funny shape or hold in Control if you don't want to change it up here on the toolbars. And then, of course, my favorite one is the polygon. It's got a whole bunch of other ones here that you can play with, but you can do just about anything you want with a polygon. And I'm going to focus a little bit more on the polygon side now for a while. So to make a nice equal polygon, I'm holding Control in, I'm drawing a polygon. By default, my Corel goes to a pentagon. I'm going to go up to the top over here. Let's make it a 25-sided thing. I don't know what you call it, 50 Rand, if anybody knows off the top of their heads. Because I've got a shape, I'm just going to set the size. I make my coasters 95 mil. Why 95 mil? Why not 100 mil? Because on my 600 by 400 sheet, it leaves me a little bit of room that I can fit an extra coaster in, and I can get an extra 6 coasters that I can make a little bit of extra money off the customer, because they won't notice the difference between a 100 mil coaster and a 95 mil coaster. So you can draw out your shape, and when you click on it, Corel basically has 2 modes. So see over here, you've got the one here with a dark arrow. I don't even know what you call it. But when you click on objects and stuff, that's when you can move them. And if you click a second time on your object, your rotation becomes active. Then you can take this thing and you can rotate it, or you can actually move your point of rotation. Well, we're going to cover that in detail just now, this point of rotation. And over here, you can grab it on any of these nodes and you can move it around and have it snap to any other nodes. Where the magic comes in with these polygons is that each line on the polyline of a polygon has got a little center snapping point that's got a little algorithm written into it that we can do things with to modify this thing. So look what happens when I grab this little, you'll see it's even got it's got a slightly different color. If you grab this one in the middle, look what happens when you drag it. You can alter your polygon into a star. So you don't really need that star command, because you can make a pentagon and you can drag this guy, or you can put some construction lines down and make it exactly 10 mil off 3 degrees or whatever. I'm just for the sake of speed, I'm just going to drag this guy till it looks plus minus 45 degrees to me. Right. So there instantly, we've got a little badge for a wedding that you can put a little ribbon on, and you can put a thing and you can say, best cow. Well, not at a wedding, maybe at a Fandisi, best cow. And you can pretty much go back. You can turn this thing into a sonneblom. You know, you can we can go and we can trace it like a thing, and all of a sudden we can do magic. But look what else we can do. We can go over to our other tools that's built into Corel. This one is called the corners function. You switch those on, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, by window, Dockers. There's a whole bunch of things. Yeah, I'll screenshot you guys my setup that I've got over here. So I'm going to select our Fandisi star, auction star, I guess. I'm going to activate all the nodes with basically going into edit mode. I'm going to select them all, or I can push Control A. That I have them already. Oops, I went out. Okay, select them all. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to take a chance, and because I know more or less what my size is, a radius of 5 mil will work on all. It's not selecting my, oh, sorry, I must hold in Shift and then move my, sorry guys. Okay, so therein lies the problem. Okay, so this thing is still, the Corel is still picking it up as this fancy shape that's got rules that are editable. So now when I was trying to do my little trick that I prepared to you guys, I already forgot an important step. So
the curves.
Right click on it. Oops. Always convert to curves. Most of our laser software doesn't like the fonts and fancy shapes and stuff. I know with like K40 Whisperer, rounded corners, often it puts them on funny shapes and things if you don't convert to curves. Okay, now that we've converted it to curves, we no longer have the power to manipulate the shape. So once you're happy with the shape of your shape, you can convert to curves, but now we've broken this thing. And if we want to manipulate it, we have to go and do every single point, and we're going to sit here for 3 hours where we could just stop, rather made a new shape quickly. Just grab a new one.
There quickly.
So there we got the 2 different versions, just so we can, not exact copies, but concepts there. Right, so this one is the one that's been converted to curves. I can select all those points. I can say, yeah, on my corners, we can fillet, which rounds corners. Scallop does an inverted fillet, and chamfer does straight line cuts it at 45 degrees or at the the amount of millimeters you specify. I'm just going to go with 5 because I think it will work. Oh, it's telling me they were too short. So let's try 3. Okay, boom. And right over there, you can have a very fancy scallop on basically any picture they send you from the internet. You don't have to go trace. You don't have to try and draw the thing out by hand. You can just draw yourself a shape, convert it to curves, and you can alter the shape. Let's scallop it. Let's do instead of a fillet, let's do a scallop. So look, that gave me quite a unique, unexpected shape I wasn't expecting. And this looks quite nice for something vintage. You know, we can go and put little circles in here and we can make this thing look like a Victorian thing now. And what you can also do, my favorite to do, is I do a scallop first. Then I do a fillet afterwards. Okay, it's not going to work with that. Let me show you guys with a square quick. It's one of my favorites. So with a square, you can do your first scallop or corner from the top, yeah? So let's just say I want to make it, I'm going to scallop them 5 inwards. Then I can convert this guy to curves. And then I can do a fillet on him of, let's say, 3. And then it gives you that nice little shape that looks like it's a little plykie that's got scruffies on the edges or something like that. So you're not sitting and drawing every little line. You're just using little tricks. And all we've done here so far was circles and squares. We use circles and squares to make other shapes look all fancy. So that's the part that we get to rounding corners, beveling edges. Let's bevel some edges. I'm going to show you that on a square. It's probably going to make the most sense. So we can either convert to curves and we can use our corners function, or if we haven't converted it to curves, we can use the functions at the top here. The little lock button locks it that all the corners act together, or you can unlock it and do individual corners. You see there, I'll do top left. Only the top left gets done. Undo that, put my lock on. If I do it now, it does it everywhere. The same goes if I wanted to do a little scallop, you can do that inwards. And then I said the bevel, let's say we're going, it's probably going to be, in this case, it's 5 on every corner or whatever the case. So we can quickly bevel it. Let's convert it to curves. And let's round those corners slightly. Or we could say, well, let's do them a nice big scallop first. And then let's do a small fillet afterwards. And there you would have something. I just did this for the demonstration, but you could have something very unique if you did it intentionally. And that's how people do plates for steel work, where they've got the little holes in the center lines, and for engineering works and that kind of thing. It's literally just squares, circles, and offsets, bevels. Right. Now we've got this nice. Oh, this one is definitely not nice. So let's go and do this one. To curve. You go to curve. Righty. So there we got a lacquer one. Let's stick it in the center, yeah, where I can. Sorry for making you guys seasick. So to make this guy a lot thicker. I think that's better for you guys, eh?
Yes, that looks good.
Yeah. Just go a little bit mull, yeah. All right, so if this was the outside of our coaster, I always like putting a little border on the inside. Even if I got artwork, I don't like the open borders. For me, it just rounds that thing off and it makes a cheap piece of wood look really expensive when it's got a nice little perfectly round border. And that's very simple. We don't have to go and if we tried and we copied this thing and we pasted it and we tried to get clever and said, put the origin on the center, let's make it 5 millimeters smaller. Let's go and fiddle with. You're never going to get it to match equally everywhere. And you're going to drag this guy and you're going to pull it. And eventually you're going to say, ah, man, they won't see the problem. Nobody else. But in your heart of hearts, you know it's not right. So we don't want to be doing that. We simply select our curve once we've converted to curves. We find our contour tool, which is, I'm going to show you, once it's active, you get this little interface. Yeah, you can set the color you want for your outline and the color you want for your fill. Sometimes you do a contour and you're like, oh, it didn't work, but for some reason Corel defaults to a white or to an invisible color and you think it's not working. In the meantime, it's just gone mad. So as a rule, I don't like having it pretty colors. I just make it as ugly colors as possible so that I can see what's happening, and then I change the colors post that. At the top here, you've got, starting from the Chinese way, working from right to left, we've got contour towards the outside. So whatever you have is going to make a copy of that line, mathematically accurate, exactly the amount of millimeters that you want, and honor that shape towards the outside. If we go to the next one, that's to the inside. I never use this front one. What is it? Oh my God. My tooltips aren't jumping up with Zoom, but I never use that one. I don't even know what it is. Okay, but anyways, and when you're doing it, you've got the amount of steps. So you can tell it, I want to go 2 millimeters 5 times, and it will do you 5 little things like a portal. So let's do 10 millimeters, 3 steps inwards, and hit apply. So there it's gone 10 mil, 10 mil, 10 mil, 10 mil, and it's all nice and accurate, and it matches the original shape. Yeah, at the bottom of the corners, let me undo that. You've got some options where you can say, keep everything straight. I just have to select something first. Is there already a contour? Yeah. Get rid of that one. So now I'll put it on corner straight. I'm going outwards. I want to go inwards. 3, 10 on the replicate. Because in this case, it didn't have much of a difference whether we went with the round corners or the circular corners. Let's see with the bevel. Okay, with this kind of shape, it's not going to make a difference. But you'll see often when you do a contour, you get some of your lines visually where it goes to like hell and gone, you've got this funny little black thing. Then the best thing is just to switch your method to the corner method, because it rounds those corners and you don't have the edge of your line visually looking wrong. And sometimes even it engraves that thing. You can't even see it on screen, but you've got this line on your engraving and you can't figure out. And that you fix by coming and putting this corner on. In fact, I would suggest that you always leave this on, unless for some reason you've visually got a reason you want to use that one. But most of the time, just leave it on that default setting. All right, so for the purposes of this coaster, I normally go, okay, this coaster is double size now, so I must go double size. I'll normally go 3 mil in from the corner as a personal rule. I'm going to go in once, and I'm going to get my little line over there. I'm going to go right click on the contour and break apart. Now this outside line and that contour line don't interact anymore. If I undo my action, then when I move one, the other one moves. If I edit the original line, my contour remembers the contour rule that I applied to it, and it will always keep my contour doing whatever I want. Even if I created another square, I think this will work. If I, no, it's not gonna do that. But also, as a rule, to make my life easier, every time I make a contour, I've got a muscle memory. I create a contour and I Control K, I never keep them together because they always mess me around. When they're together, to change the individual colors is almost impossible. And even if you go into your objects and you try change one or the other, you spend so much time trying to figure out. I just break them apart. They're two separate lines. I can now make this one my blue for scoring, red for cutting, and there I've got a coaster with a nice little border. Now, let's get fancy. I'm going to just put a little circle in the center so that we can see where the center of the circle is the whole time. And I also, when I'm drawing, I like to put a little circle, a little square on the center of my working objects. When I'm moving around and stuff, then I can click on the actual center of an object. Because if you didn't know, when you just select the center, it doesn't always snap. It sometimes just selects as close as what your eye is going. And when you move that thing, it's not actually truly on the center, especially if one side of this thing was broken, for example. Now you try and select that center. See, you think you're selecting it, but you're not. So I like to put a little shape in the center of my things that I'm sure of. And then when I select that, I've got the center of that circle that I can snap and move to. It's just little construction lines that I personally like to use. So there I'm just going to make some random little circles, or one circle, not circles. And I'm going to move it to there. And let's make it green so you guys can see it. Right, so I want that circle to go 5 or 6 times. I want it to be all around here. So I can copy and paste this guy. And I can move it around, and I can now spend hours and hours building this coaster for my client who wants this thing to have 6 holes and not 8 holes, because 4, oh, how am I going to do this? Okay, no ways. That's not going to work. So let's draw a circle. Remember what I told you guys? The first click activates a thing where you can move and resize. The second click on an object. If the object isn't filled, then you must be careful to actually go and click on the line. If an object is filled, you can actually click anywhere on that object. The second click is very important. You'll see it changes this to a rotation little GUI. Then you can actually grab. Look what happens when I get to that center point here, that little target. I can grab that target, and I can move that target anywhere I want. Look what happens if I move the target and I leave it over here. Look what happens when I rotate now. It's rotating around that little target. That's the center point of my rotation. If I move this rotation to here, and I rotate the circle, it's going to rotate there. If I do rotation up here on my toolbar, it's going to go around that point of rotation over there. So this is where most people get it wrong, and where I battle the most in Corel, because it's not very intuitive with this thing where you're doing the raise, and that's because of the way that this little origin functions. Okay, so click it again, take your center of origin, put it in the center of your circle, because we want everything to go in a circular pattern. Go and we find the toolbar called transform, and that one I know for sure is here under Dockers. Over here, Alt F7 or transform. Mine stays open on the side here permanently because it's something that I use every single day, multiple times. I literally can't live without this. When you open up your transform, it opens up on this by default. At the top here, you've got a bunch of different things for different reasons. We want to focus on this one with a circle. It's called, I can't see, but it's a rotational transform. So we've got our object selected. We've got our center point on our rotation. So now normally you grab a calculator and you say, okay, I want 6 objects. So 360 divided by 6 is 60, or was it 65, or was it 30? And then you get confused. What's really cool, in Corel and 99% of software out there, you can actually do your maths within the place where you type your numbers. So you don't have to type 60 degrees there. You can say 360, because there's 360 degrees in the circle. I want to divide it by 6. And you hit enter. Oops, I mustn't hit enter because then it's going to do the actual job. But you can go 360 divided by 6. And if you click somewhere else, you'll see it'll have done the maths for you. If I wanted 8, I can go 360 divided by 8. And boom, it will do my maths. So because I'm lazy and I haven't used the calculator in years, I'm just going to do 360 divided by 6 parts. Stop hitting enter. Okay. So if we know we want 6 parts, we've got 1 original, so we want 5 copies plus the 1 we have. So you go on the top there, you go 360 divided by the number of parts, and then you have other copies, you just go 1 less. So if you had 6 there, you put 5. Otherwise, it just puts a copy of the 6th one on your first one, and then you might get multiple cuts or a dirty drawing at the end. So it's I try and eliminate the cleanup work by just putting 5 parts. So you'll see over here just double check that my center point is in the correct place. 60 degrees, 5 copies, sounding like a robot on purpose, because I want you to remember that. And then I'm going to hit apply, or I'm going to hit enter. And it gave me 6. Now, I knew from the beginning, because I practiced this earlier in the week for you guys, that 6 would work. But let's say I didn't know, and the client wanted 8 circles of 23 mil in there. And you go, okay, let's try. Let's say 360 divided by 8. It's 45 degrees. We want 7 copies plus our 1 original. I've got my rotation points on the center where I want it, and I hit apply. And I can say, oh, client, we can't have it that far. The holikis are going to be too tight. So we either got to use less holikis, or we got to make them a lot smaller. And then we can just put our center back again and hit apply. And now they can have 8 equally spaced nicely around. Now you can get artsy, and we can say, let's put some of these guys randomly in here to make this thing look nice. So maybe I'm going to want 1 in there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I want 8 of those as well. I click on it a second time so I can get the rotation arrows, grab that center, move it to the point I want to rotate it around. And we already know, but I'm going to do it again. We said, let's say we thought in our heads we're going to do 10 because we didn't plan this out. So we can say 360 divided by 10. We put 9 copies. 9 plus the 1 original gives us the 10. And we hit apply. And say, oh, okay. It's hitting a couple of places. Oh, I didn't think nicely. I'm going to be lazy, and I'm going to say 360 divided by 9 because I don't want to do maths. And I'm just going to, I should have undid my first set. Say 360 divided by 9, 8 copies. Let's apply that. It's looking okay, but it's all cockeyed. If I went and did my homework, like I said, and we counted everything, we would have seen that 8 was the right number with 7 copies. And now it'll look more like a snowflake or a cone or whatever you're going for. And you can rinse and repeat that however many times you want. I purposely started with a circular one because most people battle with that one. Important things once again to note is that when you click an object, you can click it a second time and you can move this little point of rotation. I'm going to have it wrong on purpose and say, oh, we quickly want to make a bunch of these guys, maybe 12 of them that are 8-sided. And I'm in a rush, not checking what I'm doing. I say, okay, 360 divided by 12. We've got our 1 plus 11 copies. Boom. Now, oh, what's going wrong? I can't use Corel. Corel went mad. No, Corel did exactly what you told it. You went mad. Go fetch your center, put it on your angle of rotation. We know we've set everything up right over there. And you can hit apply and you'll have a very nice shape. How do we do this in rows and columns? Just draw a random. I want something that's not square. Yeah. Let's make it nice and thick for you guys. It's 40 mil. Okay. So you can go and you can say Control C for copy, Control V for paste. And now you start moving these things to pack them on your, where am I pasting? I'm pasting something else. Yes, you'll see if I paste a love letter to my girlfriend or something. Yeah. And now yes, it takes so long. And how am I going to get these things equal? And, you just, and then you get clever and you say, well, I've got 4. So let me copy and paste those 4. Now my job's getting faster. But if you got 100 things of little 20 mil key rings, you're going to be sitting and now suddenly the shape doesn't work out and you got a cut over there and a hole of it. There's no point in doing any task that's repetitive. Let me put it that way. Any repetitive task, anything that you do more than once a day, a computer should be doing. There is no reason that a human should do any repetitive task. So if there's anything you're doing every day and you're doing it a lot and you're battling and it's giving you stress, and ask on the groups and ask people what's the easier way, because every single thing has been automated. I promise you guys, if it can be automated, that's what a computer can do quick. So our step and repeat function is also under by Windows Dockers. You can find your step and repeat here, Control Shift D or step and repeat. I just leave mine on all the time. It's got 2 things. So it's got horizontal settings and vertical settings. Horizontal settings are basically your y-axis. That's from left to right is your horizontal, and then vertical is your top to bottom. So if we said we want horizontal settings, we can either go no offset. In other words, we're not going to do anything to it. So it's pretty useless to have a no offset. But if we want to do a vertical, then we'd have the horizontal on nothing and the vertical on. So I don't like to use the offset, because the offset, you have to know what the size of your object is, and you have to work out what the size from the center to the center is going to be. And with shapes like this, it's going to be difficult, because let's just say this thing was 40 mil. So I'm going to guess that about 25 mil will be my offset, and I want 5 copies. Oh no, it wasn't. Maybe I should have gone 50. And you can, but now it's not equal. The one side's further than the other side. I don't like using offset unless I'm using pure circles, pure squares, or very uniform shapes. The best thing is just go space between objects, because we've all got our settings on our laser. Parts not closer than 2 mil. I don't like having anything closer than 2 mil because I'm scared of fire. 3 mil if I'm not worried about material and it's not Christmas. If it's Christmas time, then I get stingy and I even go as close as 1 mil. But generally I go 3 mils. So we can just set space between the objects to 3 mils. Yeah, we can say I want 50 objects. I'm going to go to the right or to the left. I'm going to go to the right and I'm going to apply. And right over there, it's gone and copied that over for us 50 times. I'm going to put it back down here, nice and big. I'm going to say, just give me 9, because 50 is a bit ridiculous for my laser. 3 mil in between. And when I do that, there's a 3 mil gap here. There'll be a 3 mil gap over there. Let's do the same thing. Once we've done it that way, we can put that guy to a no offset. We can say down, space between objects. And let's go 5 down, because my laser uses a rectangle. And oops, I only selected that bunch. I didn't select everything. So let's undo, select all of them, and then do that. Now, if I suddenly went to my friend's laser across the road, I can select all of those, and I can do all of those 5 times that way. Or I can select all of those, and I can say, give me the space between the objects, and this time I want to go left. So very quickly, you can do multiple repetitive tasks, by getting clever, between your step and repeat and your circular transforms. What I don't know, and I would love if somebody does know, in AutoCAD, you can actually tell it how many rows and how many columns, and at one time it'll actually do it both ways. In Corel, I only know how to do this in 2 steps, to do rows one way and then select them all and then do the columns the other way. If I activate both here, and I said I want to go that way and that way, it does it at that little angle. It's doing that. It's not putting them 2 mil apart this way and this way. I think it's called a rectangular array. If somebody knows of a trick like that in Corel, that would be lovely. It'll save me 1 click. 1 click on 50 jobs a day, probably save you 10 minutes, and you can use that to learn how to use Corel better. All right. So now we've got our very ugly shape coaster here. I'm not gonna redo it. I'm just gonna assume that I got this off 3-axis and I didn't know what I was doing, and I'm practicing. So I'm gonna just quickly pop over to the internet. You can still see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, just gonna pop over to the internet. I'm gonna go images. I'm just gonna type in windpomp.
No, you didn't.
Type in windpomp. It's gonna pop up a lot of things. A quick little tip from a fool. You can always type in anything you're looking for. You can type in SVG behind it. You can also type PNG. You can also type coloring, like an American. You can also type coloring book. Those are some of the keywords that's going to give you the quickest and best results for quick hits that you can use on an emergency job. If you don't have time, SVG, PNG, and coloring book, and then you use those to do what I'm going to show you now, what I call the quick trace, or the dummy tracing. Because most of the time I don't have time to spend 20 minutes or even 10 minutes on the artwork, because we're charging for the coasters or whatever. We don't always charge for our artwork, so you want to do it as quick as possible in that case. So I'm just going to take this one. I'm not even going to copy it and make it nice. I'm going to do this as bad as possible. I'm going to print screen this to make it as ugly as possible for you. The better image you can get, the better this will work. But I want to show you with a really ugly image, because that's normally what we get via WhatsApp. I'm just going to shape my image quickly down to the size. And then we won't go on to Color Da Vinci speed up mode. So this is what I do. I click on it. I right click on it. I go outline trace, line art. Don't even worry. Don't even look. Don't even think. Just trust a fool. Outline trace, line art, or you can go up to the top of the bars that Corel uses on tricks of the trace. But outline, trace, line art. It opens up your window. I found something out last night. I actually tested every single setting on a very, very complicated drawing. That's why you guys saw some things come out at weird hours, because I was busy testing something. And that's why I know that this works the best for a quick hit. As it gets in here, make sure it's on outline, line art. It will remember your settings the next time and make it a bit easier for you. Always put it on 100. So don't ask questions, just put it on 100. Put smoothing on 25. And I found, put the background color on none. Don't have it removed. The moment you put that background color on, it actually messes around with the way that it makes your picture, and it makes the picture worse. And your computer can sometimes take hours to do something complicated because it's trying to remove a color. So never use that. What you can do is group by color, because then when we've made this thing into a vector, we can just go and find the white and delete all the white ourselves manually, and we don't have the computer crash and Corel closes. This is the place where Corel normally crashes with me, is when I'm tracing. If I haven't saved, then I could lose a lot of work. Okay. So I'll put this. You guys can take a screenshot, or we'll put it in the group. Copy these settings exactly like this. Don't do anything else. Don't think. Go here to colors, as what Corel taught us. Put it on black and white. If you've got a large image, it might take a while. Go have a cup of coffee, come back, and then it will give you an answer. Over here, I put mine on illustration. It's very minor differences, but just go with these. You'll seldom have to come back in here. For some reason, my black and white chops and changes between different setups. I'm not sure why. Right. That's about as complicated as this gets. Then we just hit OK. And over here, you will see that we now have a vector that's grouped. The one has got color and the other one will be white. And I go grab that white one. I can show you guys that's what's all white, 41 objects. And I'm just going to delete that entire group. I'm going to select the black ones, ungroup all. And then I'm going to union them or merge them one time. So that now I have a lovely Windpompie, and I can go draw a square over here, and I can say back minus front, and using probably the ugliest picture we could find, and we've got a pretty nice Windpomp. I'm going to do another one really quick. Let me grab these little kids over here. In this case, I'm actually going to try and open the image from the website. See if I can get a bit of a better quality than earlier. I'm going to just copy this guy out. You can also right-click, save it as an import. I find that I just copy from the website, paste it in, move it to where you want. And like I said, I didn't even go and play with contrast or editing the picture. I just made sure I found an SVG, a PNG, or a vector, something black and white that I know will work for a dummy. Hope I don't offend anybody. Normally, the first thing I do is I just normally crop that picture. I just crop that picture a little bit. So I didn't want that bottom thing in there. Right, I want those guys. Simple as this. Right-click, outline trace, line art. Wait for the computer. See, this one's more complicated. You saw how long it took now. Look what happens if I put this background color off and I change something. It's almost instant. Look what happens if I put background, say remove a background color. Look when the poor computer thinks, it can think for hours sometimes. So yeah, I just put that off, merge adjacent, remove overlap, and group by color. Doesn't stay on by default for some reason. We go over here, we put it into black and white because we don't want to think. It's on illustration, it's great. I'm not even going to look at the results because I'm just trusting that the 125 illustration black and white will work. Pops me my answer. I go find which one is my white one. I think it's that one. I just like to change the color to make sure. Hit enter or hit delete. Ungroup all. Merge them. And now you'll see we have some very lacquer line art that we can either use as line art, or we can then go and draw a border around this, or probably for another day, we can add a boundary around this thing, and then we can start trying and playing with our contour and give it a ridiculous contour of, let's say, something like 50 outwards rounded. So don't worry what I'm doing, just look for fun. So I went 50 outwards, rounded. I know I want a little 3 mil border around that thing, but if I do 3 mil, if I do a 3 mil contour, it's giving me this very horrible shape, and how am I going to get that all joined up? So I like to go to a ridiculous amount outwards. Then I go inwards by 47. So 50 minus 3 of what I wanted. I can now go inwards 47, and there I've got a pretty little border for my shape. And all I did was I used the most basic tools that we can possibly get, that was developed in the 80s or the 60s already. When they first developed computers, they had these point line polygons, arrays, It's your oldest tools, and it's the tools we use the least because we all want to do the modern thing where that's drag and drop, and you change the shape. So if you actually want to design, you need to be able to draw a little bit. And you can imagine that right over there, let's actually keep this shirt in the group. It's a nice little artwork for a school project or something. You can cut the little fans out, put them on little stockies, have them turn, and whatever else. Guys, I think I covered all the points on there without deviating too much. The final video that we post, we'll edit it a bit neater. But yeah, I'd love your comments. If you think it helped, if you learned anything, and of course, if you can teach us something, please. That's why we actually here is we want to learn. Thanks, guys. That's me. Cheers. Bye.